Hey everyone, this is the second video in the Problems with the Ranger's Apprentice series, which I was not expecting to become a series, because, you know, it was supposed to be actually only one video, but then it turned out to be really long. Yeah, the last video was about the small problems, you know, the things where you're like, well, I don't agree, but yeah, I can ignore it. This time it's a bit of a larger problem. Yeah, I just had to remember which problem it was, because my mind is a bit all over the place right now. This video is about the attitude of the Rangers, or how they behave themselves. I think. Let me just check this, because obviously I haven't checked. No, that's the wrong place. I need to go here. All videos, Rangers of Problems, part 2. No, I was wrong. Okay. This video is about the slavery in the series, you know. The first time we see this, I think, is in book 2. Yes, well, actually book 3, but it starts in book 2. And I really appreciate, actually, that the author decided to do something with slavery, because, you know, it's still an issue today, and I really like to see that he tried to give it some attention. I just don't think it was given enough attention. You know, if you're gonna make it a thing, I feel like you should make it a bit more important. Other people might disagree with me, saying, you know, it's not about the slavery, the books, it's about the Rangers. So, hope you enjoy. So now we're gonna have talk of the actually a big problem, and that's with slavery. So now, I think it's in the second book, Will gets carted off to Scandia, which is basically the Vikings. And in the third book, mostly, we deal with seeing him and Cassandra being slaves. Once he gets rescued, Will has nothing. He has no problems. Like, he immediately goes back to Scandia, best friends with everybody who imprisoned him, and just goes back there and has no scares at all. I mean, like, shouldn't it be normal that the moment he, for example, sees slaves, he's like, oh wow, that he's really shocked? Shouldn't it be normal that once, I don't know, he sees a whip again, he gets really scared? I mean, he has no PTSD, no nightmares. I mean, how come fan fiction talks about this more than the actual book? And I know it's a kid's book and a boy's book, so, you know, the emotional side isn't really shown. So, but I still think it's weird that Will had nothing left, no scars, no nothing. It was just like, oh yeah, I was a slave for a few years, yeah, that was for some bad years anyway, I'm fine now. So then Will and Holt go back to save Scandia from the, I think they're called Tamugi? Something like that. You know, basically your eastern desert dwellers. So these people are invading Scandia, and Will and Holt go back to basically save Scandia. And in the process, they also free a bunch of slaves, but not out of goodwill. No. These slaves are useful to them. Basically, what they say is, we need a bunch of Araluan, archers. So they pick out the slaves who are the best archers and train them, and tell them, you know what, if you work for us, we're gonna set you free, and if you don't work for us, then probably the Tamugi are coming and they're gonna kill anybody anyway, so you might as well work for us. But, like, that's the only time in the entire series that they do anything for the slaves. That's just, so they do free the slaves, but they're just like, oh, they're still treating them as objects. They're still treating them as things that are convenient to them. That's kind of hypocrite. Also, that they're just friends with Iraq, you know, Iraq. I don't know. I'm just gonna call him Iraq because that sounds like the way you pronounce it. So they're just friends with Iraq, and they never even mentioned the whole slavery thing to him. I mean, I know Will makes sure that the Scandians don't raid Araluan anymore, but after that, there's no mention anything. They've got such a special place with Iraq. They're allowed to criticize his horse riding skills, make jokes nobody else would make. I mean, Iraq would have killed anybody else with an axe if they'd made that kind of jokes, and Will is just allowed to do that. And at Holt too, and all the others. But then they never really bring up any important topics. They never talk to him about, hey, you know, this whole slavery thing, it's like, it's not cool, you know, maybe you could do something about it, or, you know, maybe you should just stop raiding. I mean, I understand that stopping raiding and slavery altogether is gonna take a long time, because people aren't going to be also happy about it. But they're just like, oh yeah, let's free about 30 slaves and make sure they can't raid Araloon anymore. Let's call it a day there. We did our good job. But I don't know. Also, the king of, for example, Araloon, Duncan, he is king of the Araloons, but not the ones back in Scandia. He just literally talks with the guy who's enslaving them, and then he's like, yeah, cool, we're friends, okay, bye. And so he's king of all Araloons except the ones that were kidnapped by his friend. So Irak definitely got his due in book 7 when he tried to raid a village, and it turned out that the village actually had a better defense than he had an attack. So that was really cool, but also in that book, immediately after he was attacked, kidnapped and captured, he just immediately became friends again with the people who were his enemies just a few chapters ago. So that's also weird in these books, that people just become friends with whoever just because they're both nice. So yeah, why shouldn't they become friends? I mean, of course, they were enemies a few minutes ago, but doesn't matter. Yeah, so basically, I don't think they did enough against the whole slavery thing. I feel like the slavery was more a part to drive the plot, it was there, Will got captured, and then Will did something which made him a hero, because he made sure nobody could, capture Araloons anymore, so now Will's a hero, well done you, and then they just leave it at that. So, it was, I mean, obviously everything is a plot device in a book. That's logical, because, in a plot-driven book, because it's about the plot, but it still felt really off. Another thing about the Scandians that kind of annoys me is the fact that we literally meet them while they're working for Morgarath, because in all the stories, Will is tracking down the last of Morgarath's henchmen, and one of these is very annoying, because lots of robbers decide to use this guy's name. I don't even remember what his name was, but lots of robbers decide to use this guy's name, because the name is so threatening and it scares people, and Will's having lots of hard time catching this dude. But at the same time, he is literally friends with one of the Scandians that pretty much voluntarily helped Morgarath. We never hear anything about them being forced to do it or anything. They're gonna be paid money to fight for a little warlord. And now, if they decided later, Morgarath was bad and that's why we're not gonna fight for him, because that would have been cool, because I'm all for that, when a character realizes, oh, I've been working for the bad guy all this time, let's become good, and, well, I mean, not that simple, but you know what I mean. That is great. I love that. I'm all for that. But that never really happens. The reason the Scandians leave Morgarath is because things are getting a bit difficult and they realize they're going to lose. So they decide to not uphold their end of the bargain, because when have mercenaries ever done that? And they decide to go away with Will, who they've captured. Then they, get to Scandia and it turns out, hey, Irak's not a bad guy because he is nice to slaves. So then Will and Cassandra escape, and with his help, because of course now he's nice, and then they meet up with him again after Holt has, got them back, and then within a few, I don't even remember how long it took him, but within a very short while, Holt is trusting this dude, and I know he was helping Scandia only because of threat to Araloon, and that's actually pretty good, because I'm like, why are you going to help this dude without even, first saying anything about what he did? But of course it was a bit of a bad situation at the moment, so he couldn't have said anything, yeah, hey Eric, I'm gonna help you, but, you really should look into the slavery thing, because that was not relevant at that point in time, because they were having a massive invasion, and sometimes you have to put aside differences. But then because of that invasion, and them working together, and Eric being nice to slaves, everybody kind of forgets about the whole he worked for Morgarath thing, and I know this may seem very harsh, but what if another dude shows up who wants to conquer the world and is like, hey Scandians, I've got some nice money for you, wanna work for me? How do we know they're not gonna help him again? I mean, we know Irak personally, and Irak is nice, so yeah, and I know the treaty, you might say, oh, well, they said in the treaty that, they weren't going to do massive raids anymore, and that they weren't going to attack Araloon anymore. Well, yeah, that's Araloon, but I mean, I don't really care which country you're attacking, it's still bad. So, and I mean, we know that Eric is nice now. And we know that Eric is friends of Will, and that apparently he has a good moral radar, but he still steals from people. And he never really said anything. It's kind of just shoved, I don't know how you say that in English actually, but it's kind of just shoved under the radar that he worked for Morgoth. We're kind of told to shush and forget about it. So, I mean, I don't think Eric is a nasty guy. I actually think he's kind of funny. But he made mistakes, and it's okay to acknowledge that. But in the books, they never acknowledge it. They're just like, yeah, okay, well, his country made mistakes, and he's the good guy. But that's just not the case, because he's literally the leader of the country, and before that he was a leader of men who were doing that stuff. Yeah, so that was it. There's 2 more videos coming up, which is a lot, I agree, so I'm hoping to do a why I like the Ranger's Apprentice series later on. So yeah, basically, like I said, I still think it was really interesting that he even decided to do something with the whole slavery topic, and again, I really appreciate, for example, the treaty and stuff like that. I just felt that otherwise it was dealt with rather not so great. But of course, yeah, you can say the same thing for other books where they have, you know, the side plots that you think it wasn't that great. It happens. Hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, so see you next time.